Hello, Sean. How are you on yet another post Doctor Who day?
I'm good. I'm good. This has been a heck of a couple of weeks because we have new Doctor Who, we have new Star Trek, and I'm just watching so much Schitt's Creek.
We can't catch a break.
We both like we can't, and also like it's wonderful, and also it's grand. It's grand. I suppose. Sure, while we're at it, check out the discussion video that is dropping. I think on Trek Culture within the next however many days, minutes. I don't know what day of the year it is.
Yeah, it
Um,
might already be out. Maybe just
it
go
might
over to
already
Trek
be out.
Culture and see.
Wibbly wobbly.
But what we really need to discuss is episode 3, Boom, Steven Moffat's return to Doctor Who. Now, obviously, people will have already seen my ups and downs review of the episode, but as always, we haven't heard Sean's thoughts on the episode yet. So, Sean, give me an overall thought on Boom.
Very Moffat. You're dead right. Moffat's back. Tense is a word I would throw on it. Bear with me when I say it walked a fine line between preachy and I think it carried it well. So I really
Hmm.
enjoyed this episode. Um, and I quite like what they did. A lot of people aren't going to like what they did.
Very interesting because I actually commented in the ups and downs that this was the first episode where I felt like the virtue signaling was much more subtle and embedded.
So I think that I would say the opposite, but I do think that was the point. So that's what I mean.
Hmm.
So I mean, you can't get much more on the nose than thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, which absolutely work in every situation ever. Which of course is the point, the uselessness of now. This is where this is very 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 Russell T Davies era, but obviously Moffat writing is the Doctor. And I know it turns around at the end, but the Doctor going how angry he is at Faith and how much he doesn't like Faith. I'm not exactly here to defend or criticize Faith. This is not the forum, but this is very much Russell T. Because if you look at I say early revival Doctor Who, particularly Torchwood, I mean, it's like, it's Russell T. One hand on one side of the screen, one hand on the other. It's like, you know, everything you believe is nonsense, right? Um, and there's a bit of that where I think that this is really well done is how it's Faith overall, and and Moffat kind of brings it back and says there is still a place. I mean, Faith itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It's easily weaponized, hence
Hmm.
the entire plot of the episode, and it's very easy to manipulate, and that's what makes Faith as dangerous as it can be this very useful tool. So Moffat, as per usual, is just like, "How are you getting on? Are you having a nice Saturday? Here's some existentialism."
I think as well, I mean, one of the words you used then to describe the episode was tense. Now,
Mm.
if you all remember in our discussion last week, when we spoke about the first 2 episodes, I mentioned that I felt like the thing that was missing for me in these newer episodes was the intensity. And that was, to me, what I was feeling like was missing, why it wasn't feeling like Doctor Who. Well, this episode certainly had the intensity. Um,
It,
and I think it worked really, really well. I think the balance between the intensity mixed in with the kind of the humor and the deep emotion and the high stakes, it was a very claustrophobic setting for an episode. And I
oh yeah.
really, really, really enjoyed it. I love Moffat's writing. I'm a big fan of Steven Moffat.
It's funny, right? So I would be the same. Some of the criticisms that have come out in the last few years, and particularly, I suppose, as people have had a chance to breathe after Moffat's tenure came to an end, there's a lot of criticism about. So Moffat can't kill characters. Well, spoiler, he did this time, and quite horrifically as well.
Mm.
And there's other deeper criticisms that just in this particular scenario, they're not. I haven't done enough reading into them, and I don't think they apply as much to this episode. But one thing I really really like about Moffat is how generally his scripts get you to think. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm not saying every script is perfect. No, there's no such thing as a perfect script. Well, the movies stand by me, but um, and I quite like to think about things like Doctor Dance's Doctor Empty Shot Doctor Dance's by the way Easter egg villain guard anyway yes
Mm-hmm.
and things like Blink, things like Listen. This to me I think is going to fall into the kind of the Blink Listen category of Moffat scripts, as opposed to maybe the Pandorica Opens, The Big Bang, where it's just like, I'm enjoying this. What the F is going on?
Mm.
This is much more simple. This is a very, very, very simple episode done very well. This is effectively, I think we now live, I'm really energetic about this. I think we now live in an era where a bottle show, because CGI and technology has come on so much, a bottle show can look like a motion picture. I
Yeah.
mean, like you said, this is them sitting in a bunker or oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Crater. So sitting in a crater for 45 minutes. That's
Yeah.
it. That's the setting.
Yeah.
And that's what it ratchets up the tension. And we have our beautiful backdrop, it's the planet and everything. Actually, I love that bit where Doctor goes, right, okay. And Ruby goes, that was 2 minutes. I'm like, yeah, as the audience, same. But, and it's still there. The only thing I thought was missing, and it's actually not a criticism because it's just me being just like, I wouldn't have minded to see a hand mine.
Yes, okay, with you now. I was like,
I,
what?
I really went into I'm in a stream of consciousness here now.
Wow. Okay, that was deep. So,
Thank you.
one of the things that myself and Danny had been discussing was how well Moffat writes dialogue. He writes
Mm.
things very, very well. And I think particularly the pairing between Steven Moffat as a writer and Ncuti Gatwa as a performer, I think they work so well together. I mean, Ncuti was absolutely eating up every line that he had to deliver in this episode. And he had to basically explore the whole range of emotions in this episode. There was humor, there was rage, there was sarcasm, there was devastation, there was trying to keep you cool. And we were saying it really felt like this is the first time we felt like he really is, this is the Doctor. And I really think the pair of them together, just, it's like magic.
I like we've now seen Moffat with all of the modern incarnations bar the 13th Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Which hopefully will be fixed at some point. And in the future, it's wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, with everything's possible. Actually, there's a line for the episode. Everything is possible. Everything will happen. Everywhere's a beach eventually.
It's just, there's something about his writing. I can't even put my finger on what it is. But a line as simple as everything is a beach eventually. I just, there's so many. We spoke about a lot of them in the ups and downs, just specific lines. But even the line you were saying about faith, there was a line that he said, and I was like, oh, that was good. He said, bear with, finding my notes. What did he say? Faith, the magic word that keeps you never having to think for yourself. And whether you agree with that or not as a concept of faith, the line itself, such good writing.
See, I completely agree, right? And I think it's lines like that which are going to get people's backs up. I think as long as you're not setting out to piss people off, writing with the possibility of pissing people off gives you freedom,
Mm.
and it kind of can push you a little bit to not worry about, well, maybe this will offend, or maybe that will offend, or maybe I could phrase that a certain way, because that there are people who will look at that and will take that as a very personal dig against them.
Yeah.
And there are people who would look at that and like, I am completely ambivalent toward this. And people look at that and be like, look, that is me. That's how I feel. And that's one thing I do quite like generally about Steven Moffat as a writer.
I think he's not afraid to go there. And again, when I was saying last week about the lack of intensity, and I was saying it almost feels like they're too scared at this point to scare people or to push those boundaries a little bit. And even, I think I mentioned this in the ups and downs as well, even with the swished, mushed up dead person,
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like they finally crossed that with Moffat, at least with that concept. they're not afraid to make their audience feel uncomfortable. And I think that's part of what Doctor Who is. Make them uncomfortable, make them think, or make them kind of squirm in their chair, or just, I think that's part of it. If you make it too sanitized and too just general, and there's no high stakes, or no one's ever, like Space Babies, for example, I never for once believed that any of those babies were actually going to die.
That was never going to happen.
No.
Never.
Whereas this one, I was like, something could happen here. Something could happen to Splice. Just because she's a child, that doesn't mean she is safe. And I think, yeah, it wasn't overly gory. It's still and totally suitable for children. But the concept of what actually happened to those human bodies, even with the eyeball, they're not afraid, or Moffat's not afraid to make his audience uncomfortable.
I like that as well, because I think so. I've been here since Doctor Who came back. You've heard of the what we want with Doctor Who is the hide behind the couch, and where I would critique Moffat during his era would be where it was less hiding behind the couch, more sitting there with the pen and paper going, I have to try and keep track of this. I'm lost. This is way, way, way too involved. And
See, I like that though.
I do like that. And I think we've talked about this before. I don't think that Doctor Who should be written as a children's show, because it hasn't been that in a long time. I do think that it shouldn't be aimed at particularly a strictly adult audience either.
Yeah.
And I think an episode like this, for the gruesomeness that's in it, I think it walked a good line.
Yeah. I mean, you were just saying about maybe Moffat not being scary, but the silence. I remember when Series 6 was being advertised, and there was a lot of discussion about how scary the silence were. And almost the opposite. Is that too scary for children? I remember hearing something on the radio at the time about, is this too scary for a children's show? And people going, that's the point of it, though. You want to be scared by Doctor Who. That is what Doctor Who is. So yeah, I fully agree.
That's a great... The silence, I think, is really good example of this. This walks the fine line, because you still have the man in the rubber suit element of it. So if you want to, you can go switch off. It's the man in the rubber suit. That's fine. Death in Heaven, on the other side, I would agree with the people being just like, Stephen, did you forget that this was Doctor Who? This is a bit like, oh, this is heavy.
Yeah, that was heavy.
And you were directly telling everyone that actually everyone who's ever died ever, I hope you didn't cremate a relative.
I did get hints of Death in Heaven from this episode, actually. I think it was the whole concept of the kind of dead people and the thoughts and prayers and that kind of element of it. I did a few times think, oh, actually, this does make me think of Death in Heaven.
I see what you... The thoughts and prayers is, I think that's his biggest, like, whatever else but Walking Lines, and he's made comments on Facebook. The thoughts and prayers, that is a dig. And I'm totally behind him on that one, because there's a difference of, let's say someone is a person of faith and they include someone in their prayers. That is one thing. It's the people who then go on social media and say thoughts and prayers.
I was just about to say, that's more a commentary on, AI picking up on those things that are supposed to be, common.
Absolutely.
But but this is what I mean. This episode really makes you think, and you dig deeper, and there's so many layers to what's being said in this episode. And it's so much more thought-provoking than the ones that are so on the nose that you're like, there is no room for me to even think about how I feel about this, because you're telling me how I should feel, as opposed to letting me break it down and either watching it as it is, seeing it for what it is at face value, or allowing me to dig a little deeper into it and choosing for myself what I feel about what you're subtly trying to embed within this story. But I could also just watch it and go, there's a robot with a lady's face on it trying to kill people.
A specific lady's face as well.
Yeah, but even more so than that, right? Obviously, Susan Twist, I said in the ups and downs, this is my favorite appearance of Susan Twist so far. There's something about her in this episode. She reminded me of a cross between The Wire and Miss Finnegan in Smith and Jones, when she's like, I've got my little straw.
Oh, yeah.
I think what it is Anne Reid played that character with such calmness. Like, she never raised her voice, and that was more menacing because she was always so calm. And the same with The Wire. It's like this repetitive feeling of calmness that's more scary than if she was running around screaming at people.
What is it with just English women? They're terrifying.
I know.
You're terrifying. These are all terrifying.
Thank you so much. But what I was going to say is more important than Susan Twist, because we knew she was going to be in this episode, and, you know, you kind of come to expect her to appear at this point. Who we didn't expect to see in this episode, though, was Varada Sethu, who we obviously knew was going to be in season 2, but absolutely no clue whatsoever that she was going to appear this early in season 1.
So, do you reckon we've met her character? Will she stay as this? Because obviously we met Clara, sort of, in Asylum of the Daleks.
It's very difficult, isn't it? I feel like they're not stupid enough to make it the same concept as Clara.
I'm very conscious she's been introduced in Steven Moffat's episode.
Yeah. But the thing is, as well, though, is Steven Moffat is obviously not the showrunner, and so the elements of the episode that are a through line, like the snow falling when Ruby is there and Varada Sethu, that's clearly influenced by Russell T Davies, who has the broader, bigger picture in his mind as to what's going to happen in the future. But I'm completely at a loss. I have no idea. But I like that. I think I've said before, because of the nature of our jobs, we spend so long speculating, pulling things apart, trying to guess what's going to happen. And at this point, I have no clue what is happening, and I'm fully enjoying not knowing. I'm enjoying the surprises. I think I'd be a little bit disappointed if everything I spec. Sometimes it's like, oh, I said that. Yes, I was right. Sometimes it's like, oh, I was kind of hoping you were going to shock me and that everything I said was completely way off the mark and you've come up with something miles better than what I guessed.
Yeah, I mean, it happens to me all the time. Like, it's definitely this thing. It's not that thing at all. Well, bugger. Let's say, for example, it is this character. Obviously, we've got the Monday, Sunday, which I can just see the Doctor becoming infuriating with that joke. And the pair of them just being like, yeah, do you know what's not a day of the week? Doctor. So you're the expendable one here. And I really did like her. And one of the things that I think possibly suggests that we will see her character again is that, oh, she's going to fall in love. Never mind. So
see, that was one element of the episode I wasn't so drawn by. The whole love story situation. Okay, so the beginning part, I thought, okay, they're building up an established relationship, a kind of unrequited love situation right from the very beginning in the cold open. And then once it kind of came a little bit later, I just felt like it was a little underdeveloped. And then they started having this like moment of a love confession. And I was writing my notes and I literally, as I was writing, is this really the time for a love confession? And as I was writing confession, he blew up. And I was like, never mind. Wow.
Turns out, no, it wasn't the time.
I don't know. I just feel like I get why it was there. I didn't feel that connected to it as such. It just, of all of the elements of the story, that was the part that to me, I was like, yeah, that was probably my least favorite part of this episode.
Yeah, I get that, because if I think like the beginning was a clever seeming retread of the magician's nephew. No, that's the Narnia book, Sean. The Magician's Apprentice. Again, stumbling into a minefield, killed. I thought it was a good do-over. And poor old John Father. John Vader. Love it. I was like, all right, cool, grand. What's your role going to be? You're the dad. And I love, so this is awful. I can't remember the character's name.
Which character are we talking about?
That's a good question. The love story.
Canto.
Thank you. There's nothing wrong with him. Nothing wrong. For the bit that he was in it, I liked him. I just thought it was maybe because this was such a closed episode. I think it was maybe one character too many.
What I will say, though, and something that I totally didn't see coming and I think was set up and sold really, really well, was the moment that he appeared and shot Ruby.
That was good.
I gasped out loud. I genuinely was like, what the hell just happened there? And then you've got Ncuti's performance, his reaction to that kind of like drawn out gasp from him. And then Ruby kind of dying on the floor and that whole moment where she's crying about her next of kin. Now, I'd be
Mm,
interested to know what your thoughts are here, because I said to Danny, that moment to me where she was asking who her next of kin was, to me, that really
Clara.
highlighted how young she was. Because I didn't see it as her going, well, I don't know who my real parents are, so I don't know who my next of kin is. Because to me, I mean, your next of kin is Carla, is your
That
mum.
was
You
yeah,
would
because
know that. So
I
to
wasn't.
me, it more highlighted she was so young that she didn't even know what a next of kin was. It felt like to me she was going, Who's my next of
I've never
kin?
had
What's the
to think
next of
about
kin?
it.
I don't even know what that is." That's what it felt like to me. And I was like, whoa, this is hitting hard.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Funny enough, I didn't think of it that way, but yeah, like maybe she's just never had to think about that before.
Yeah.
It's never
This
been
is
like.
what I mean, though, about Moffat's episodes. They really force you to think, and you can read a situation in so many different ways. They're just so layered.
Hmm.
And I think Moffat does it so well. I mean, when you think about, he went from Doctor Who to writing Sherlock, you've got to have a really clever, complex mind to be able to write Sherlock Holmes and to come up with those sorts of stories, especially for the BBC version of Sherlock, because they were very detailed. And you must have to start from the end and kind of work your way through. But I think he's just got one of those minds where he just, to some people, I know you mentioned earlier, the whole, I mean, probably the River Song story arc got a bit complicated for certain viewers. But if you like that sort of thing, which I really enjoy, those threads that connect that you think are seemingly unimportant, you can really dig deep into those sort of stories.
I remember watching it. It was an hour ago, but anyway, I remember watching it and going absolute hats off to the stunt double because that's a tumble.
Yeah. And the thing is, as well, is because we know nothing about Ruby, because there was a part of me where there was like, well, she's clearly not going to die because we know she's in the next, like every episode of the season. We've seen the trailers. We know she's in more episodes. But then you don't know anything about Ruby. So you don't know that she doesn't die here. And there's not some other weird, timey-wimey thing going on that says that the version of her we see in the next few episodes is a past version, or she could have died there. This is Doctor Who. There's definitely a
Hmm.
workaround. And so, yeah, there's part of you going, she'll be fine. She's in the rest of the episodes. She won't die. And then there's a moment where you're like, oh, actually,
Well,
is she
is it
gonna die?
is she gonna die? Is she? Is this magical life saving snow? I am enjoying this, but this is there was snow last week as well, wasn't there? Or am I making it up? I mean, in the
There
Devil's
was
Court. I mean.
snow in the Devil's Cord when she was singing, when the
Yes,
maestro captured her. So
yes, of
yes.
course.
But this is the
Um,
second episode where snow has ended the episode. We had snow at the end of Space
Space
Babies in the
Babies.
TARDIS, and we've
Yeah.
had a snowflake at the end of this episode, but we have had snow in all three episodes. What
Is
does it
she?
mean?
She's one of the snowmen from
Yeah.
the Christmas special with Clara, and it's actually all been about revenge the whole time. She is. It's going to be revealed that she's being played by Ian McKellen for the rest of the season, and yeah, the Great Intelligence is just around the corner. I've no idea. The only thing we know for sure, it was snowing the night she was born, in 2004. Um, oh, good Lord! But the scene itself as well, because this sort of speaks both to how much I like Ruby so far. Because if I didn't like Ruby, killer,
Yeah.
grim as that sounds, but like kind of kill the character off. Great, you've got the new companion.
Yeah, she's there.
She's here. Brilliant. There you go. All right, do a swap. See, thanks very much. But no, I love Millie Gibson. And
I
I
think
think, and I
this,
love how she interacts with Shooty as well.
yeah.
Where she walks toward him on the landmine and everything. I believed that. I didn't get. There are shows that have come out in the last couple of years, and they take this. We will build a character who is young teenage person, and we will make them hyper competent. They can do no wrong, and they'll teach everyone. And look, there's been tropes like this for decades, and I don't get that from Ruby. And whether it's all thanks to Millie, which all credit to, and the writing as well, it works. So you have this character who's the Doctor, who's depending on what calendar you're using, thousands/billions of years old. If there's a disparity in terms of equality, in terms of right, okay, the Doctor knows a wee bit more than Ruby does. That doesn't mean Ruby can't handle a situation as well as the Doctor, if not better, sometimes.
Yeah. I did mention in the ups and downs that I think this is the best episode for Millie I think this is her strongest episode so
Yeah.
far. And I wasn't, I'm not against admitting that I think the first couple of episodes, aside from the fact that you do have to establish that kind of typical doctor companion relationship, and by just by that you get the companion often doing the kind of running around screaming scared, and not that we've seen that much of it from her, but I was starting to find that her kind of moments of being stressed or scared, or I felt sometimes there was a little bit of overacting going on, especially in some moments in the Devil's Cord. So
Mm.
I really feel like in this episode, that kind of assertiveness and banter that she showed towards the Doctor, it made me respect the character more, rather than her just kind of crumbling on the floor and go, "Oh my God, you're gonna die," and I don't know what
Mm.
to do, and which is a
Yeah, 'cause
little bit like the Devil's Cord. It was a little bit like, "But you've destroyed the world, and what do we do?" And there was a lot of breath acting in it, and I was like, "Okay, chill out now, love. Come on, the Doctor's sorting it. It's all good." Whereas this one, she was a little bit more like, "You know what? You're the one in trouble now, and you're gonna have to listen to me."
she was minding him. Exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
And even in this, just before she's shot, well, she's working with Mundy, but she's also sort of minding her as well. I was like, I don't want to shoot you. Okay, okay, fine. I'll shoot you in the arm. I like that as well. You know, when you have the characters like, look, for things to happen, I need you to shoot me. Okay, it sucks. I'm sorry I've got to ask you to do this. I need you to do this. I couldn't possibly. Ah, no way. Whereas Ruby's like, lock and load. All right, pick an arm.
She's like, maybe the other
Yeah,
arm.
well, it was great. You
Yeah.
know, which I like. Yeah, and again, it speaks to her confidence as a character, and also it's confidence in her. I mean, you would hope the writers would be confident in the character, but you know, this is something that could, if it wasn't handled as well, could go the other way. It's like, oh God, are we just going to get a companion who knows bloody everything? You
I feel
know.
like that's the direction that Clara kind of started to go in, where she kind of felt like that she was above the Doctor to a degree.
I remember they spoke about that kind of going into and then on the other side of season 9, they spoke about that this recklessness of Clara, and it was building off the death of Danny, and you know she'd survived so much things. I think I think the balance was off,
Mm,
because I think it's a really fascinating idea, that companion who thinks they're as immortal as the Doctor,
yeah,
um, because I always survive and we always get out of everything, and yeah, there's been
yeah,
some tough scrapes, and do you remember that time? And that's hard to sell, quite frankly,
yeah.
because you are human or alien of the week. And I think we're walking. Now we're only on episode, well, 4, because Ruby wrote, so we're only on episode 4. Ruby could end up dreadful next week. We could be loathing the ground she walks on. But I'm very glad she lived. Put it that way.
hmm Yeah, yeah. I'm very intrigued by her character. I think it's kind of a general consensus that so far this has been the best episode. And
Yeah, yeah.
the fact that it's Stephen Moffat's episode, you can't help but draw comparisons to the fact that some of the best episodes, or the best voted episodes of Russell's first era as showrunner, were also Stephen Moffat's episodes. And the question of, is that going to cause rifts between them, that people always seem to prefer his episodes, or does it just speak for the difference between their writings, their styles? Would
I
people have preferred Moffat to have returned as showrunner instead of Russell T Davies? I'm not saying that that is the case, but it just raises those questions, doesn't it?
I think sorry, yes, they are very, very, very fair questions, and these are questions that are going to be asked. I'm sure we'll be talking to people on Twitter about it as well, or maybe other sites too. Twitter does tend to dial up the anxiety by a million these days, um, but in broad strokes, I think Moffat's best work was when he wasn't showrunner, and I'm speaking broadly because there is fabulous writing and episodes while he is showrunner. I do love his era as showrunner. Please don't get me wrong. Girl in the Fireplace is still probably my favorite Moffat pen script. Um, and you know, and yep, and people were going like, but Sean, Blink's wonderful. It's a brilliant episode. You know, Doctor Dance's Empty Child. These are uh, I think yeah. So, but to your point about whether, you know, could this develop a rift? Honestly, I think if it was, that would have happened in 2005, 2006,
I mean, he
2007.
wouldn't have
I
asked him
don't think there would have
back.
been the invite back,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
because I think as well, obviously I don't know these people, so I'm imagining, but I imagine they're not thinking of, I hope you like my script the best, and that's, never mind the rest, because Russell will be thinking of, he's thinking 2 or 3 seasons ahead.
Hmm.
Obviously, he wants you to enjoy each episode as it comes, of course, I am speaking for him. But like, oh great, people enjoyed Boom more than say they enjoyed The Devil's Chord. Great, I'm glad you had fun. As long as you're enjoying the show.
Yeah. I think
Um,
it's interesting as well because what you said about Moffat's best episodes were when he wasn't showrunner. And I think towards the end of his time as showrunner, maybe they started to show that little bit of fatigue. And he himself has admitted that, he was being stretched in all different directions. He was working on Sherlock at the same time. There was a lot going on and a lot of pressure. And I think that does go to show that he's always been capable. Look at what this episode has shown. It's a brilliant episode. Now that he's had that time to step away and work on other things and kind of refresh himself, he's now come back with the best episode of the season so far. So I think
great,
it
yeah.
is important to mix up the showrunners from time to time because
Oh yeah, for
otherwise
sure.
you do end up with this fatigue. And we know that he is returning. Stephen Moffat is returning because he has written this year's Christmas special, Joy to the World. And let's hope that that's not it for him. I mean, let's not suggest that we're literally going into a repeat where Russell T Davies will step down at some point and Stephen Moffat will take over. But I hope that we still get single or 2-part episodes from Stephen Moffat moving forward because his episodes are really, really, really great.
I agree. Yeah. They are. And even, I liked The Hungry Earth. I'm not necessarily against Chibnall coming back either. Do you know what I mean? I'd be honest, I prefer when Russell was showrunner. I preferred when Moffat was showrunner. It doesn't mean Chibbers can't write.
No,
You know what I mean?
Chris Chibnall wrote some. I mean, Broadchurch, for example, is
Yeah.
amazing, and he wrote some of the best episodes of Torchwood. So I think you need to play to
Yeah.
the strengths. And yeah, I'm very, very excited that this is not the end for Moffat's return to Doctor Who.
Big time.
Speaking of returns, though, last week we started our ranking for season 1. So let's
That we did.
revisit that. Currently, both our rankings are the same, and we have The Devil's Chord at the top, The Church on Ruby Road in second place, and Space Babies in third place. Sean, where are you placing Boom?
Would I make a prediction by saying that our ranking is going to be exactly the same this week as well?
I think they might be.
Because if I was to put Boom, I put the number 1 beside Boom.
And just shuffle everything else down.
Everything just down one. I think credit where credit is due. But again, part of it is I'm enjoying it all the way through, and it's then building as well. So I wonder. Obviously, next week the 73 yards. I wonder where that will turn up. Will it? Obviously it remains to be seen whether it's better than Boom or is it going to be up high again, because I'm really enjoying the characters as well. But anyway, yes, sorry, Boom is my number 1 so far. Boom, Devil's Chord, Ruby Road, Space Babies. Didn't hate Space Babies, just if I'm
Something has to be at the bottom of the list.
That's all. That's all it is.
Yes. But speaking of 73 yards, obviously there was the little next time preview at the end of Boom. I'm very excited for 73 yards. I feel like it could be quite spooky. I feel like it might be a Dr. Light episode. It definitely seems to be centered around Ruby, and the Doctor seems to have disappeared. I'm very excited about this, and maybe a little bit apprehensive because I feel like it might scare me a little bit, but that's good. I want Doctor Who to scare me.
Precisely. Yeah. No, I'm excited. Yeah, I get the people in the pub looking at the window and everything, very American Werewolf in London. So yeah, or American Werewolf in Cardiff. So
yes, definitely.
Wales next week.
We are in Wales with his little yellow jacket on, and he looks so cute.
Oh, also, sorry, was it commented? Maybe, but was it commented that we finally know where that shot from the trailer came from?
Oh, we definitely spoke about that in
cool.
the ups and downs, yes, but vindication, because everyone told us that we were just reading way too much into a single shot, and turns out we were right. So, to you. Anyway.
Remember, we do want these people to like us. At the end of the day, we do try and give fair, impartial reviews, but also we do hope you like us, really.
if you haven't already, make sure you go and check out the Ups and Downs review of Boom. And later on in the week, we will have Easter eggs coming out for the episode as well. And you don't want to miss it. And stick around because as always, we will have content just like this coming out for every new episode of season 1.